Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Adam, aka the VATSIM controller, and in this video I'll be bringing you the VATSIM guide to Unicom. Hopefully everyone can learn something in this video, from the seasoned VATSIM professional all the way down to the simple beginner. Hopefully there is something for everyone to learn in this video. Before we jump into the video, just very quickly, if you do indeed like this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated and shows your support for the channel. If you would like to go one step further and support the channel, we are now officially affiliated with Aviation Tag. If you know who Aviation Tag are, great. You can go and buy your Aviation Tag using the link in my YouTube bio, and we will get some of the sales from that, which will help support the channel even further. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into the video. So, why am I making this video? As you know, there has been an influx of people, an epidemic you could even say, of people not knowing how to use Unicom properly. You see it all the time. If you're a regular flyer on VATSIM, you'll see it all the time. You'll be coming into a busy airport, you'll be landing, and there'll be some chatter on spamming your inbox on vPilot or xPilot or whatever you use. There'll be some spamming conversation going on in Unicom, either voice or over text, while you're trying to land, or someone will cut you up on approach, they'll slide right into you, forcing you to go around, and it's generally just chaos, especially if you're flying to a busy airport. So in this video, I'll be teaching you guys how to use Unicom like a pro, properly and effectively. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. So, firstly, what are the basic rules of Unicom? First of all, probably the most important point, I've actually put it here second on this slideshow here, but probably the most important point of Unicom is do not chatter on Unicom. VATSIM is meant to be fun, yes, however there is a time and a place for it. If you want to chat with someone, you can go on a Discord voice call, you can go to Discord messages, or you can even use the private message function in vPilot or whatever your controller client is. You can do that. Unicom is not the place for chatter. The only thing that you should be doing on Unicom is using it to state your intentions and coordinate with other pilots for a smooth experience for everyone. Save your other pilots the headache and do not use Unicom for chatter. Another important rule is always state your call sign and airport. For example, if I was flying at Heathrow, I'm just going to pick a random call sign I'm coming up with at the top of my head. For example, I'm flying a shuttle 4 kilo and I'm coming into Heathrow. I could say, Heathrow traffic, shuttle 4 kilo established on the ILS runway 27 left, Heathrow traffic. So you always start and end with the airport that you are flying into. Don't be afraid to call people out. And I don't mean this in a sense of you're not flying well or you're flying bad. Don't call people out like that. That's not good. What I mean is, say you're on approach with someone and someone's just in front of you and you don't know how fast he's going, you don't know what altitude he's at or what his intentions are. Don't be afraid to say, hey, insert call sign here, whatever his call sign may be. Hey, what speed are you going so I can go less than you and give you some more space? Or hey, how far out are you so I can extend my downwind leg just to give you a little bit more playing room? Again, just don't be afraid to coordinate with people. That's the whole point of Unicom, to coordinate with people. Keep in mind the Unicom range. If you're 100 nautical miles out from someone, you're not going to hear them. Unicom only has a short range, so keep that in mind. And know the importance of when to transmit and when to just stay silent. And hopefully that's what we're going to be doing in this video. We're just going to be helping you know whether something is important or not, and if you should speak up on Unicom or not. And just to save that that comms clutter, I'm going to be using that a lot, comms clutter. We don't want a load of people just talking useless information. We want to keep the comms clear, concise, and not cluttered, and not stepping over each other. So that's what we're going to discuss mostly in this video. And try and use voice as much as possible. I know it's not always possible for pilots to use voice, especially if you don't have a microphone, but try and use voice as much as possible. This is because if you're hand flying the aircraft or putting data into the FMC or playing with the autopilot, pilots aren't going to have the opportunity to look at text. So always use voice as much as possible. So, the actual flying part of VATSIM and what you should announce on Unicom can be split into 3 main parts. Firstly, the departure, which is from you leaving your stand up until you reach cruise. Well, cruise is the second one. And arrival, which is from cruise to when you park on blocks and turn off your engines. So we're going to look at the departure first, which is kind of like the second most important stage out of those. So the first questions I get a lot is, should I announce pushback and should I announce taxi? The answer for both of those questions is it depends. And I know that's not helpful, but we're going to go and have a look at that slightly now. So should I announce pushback? We're going to go onto here and we're going to go on to Volanta. We're going to open up Volanta and I'm going to be using this map of London Heathrow here just to help a little bit with this explanation. So say you're at a busy Heathrow, it's absolutely rammed. There's loads of chatter on Unicom going. People are stating intentions about landing and inbounds and takeoffs and landings. And there's just a lot of radio calls going on. Should you announce your pushback? It depends. If you're over here, and this goes for any airport by the way, if you're stood in this stand, say you're this little guy here, little A319 it looks like, and say there's someone to your left or to your right, and you're on a busy taxiway behind you, yes, you should announce when you are pushing back. So you should say, shuttles, Heathrow traffic, shuttle 4 kilo, pushing back from stand 512, Heathrow traffic. That is because obviously if you've got aircraft around you, and they also plan to push or taxi behind you, they need to know whether they're pushing or not. Say you were, again, same scenario, you're at a really busy London Heathrow airport, but say you're all the way over here. Say you're all the way over here and there's no one around you. There's no one, you've looked around, there's no one taxiing behind you. There's not a single aircraft or any of these stands around you, but it's still really busy. Again, that is a no this time. You do not need to state that you're pushing back. There's no one behind you, so that's not useful information. No one is gonna care that you're pushing back. So if you're by yourself, you stood by yourself and there's no traffic around you, do not announce push and start. Because at a busy airport, it will clutter up those comms. If it's at a quiet airport and there's 1 or 2 aircraft on the ground, feel free to announce that you're pushing back. That's perfectly okay. But at a busy airport, just make sure that you're being ultra sensitive in what you're saying there. And the same goes for taxi. Let's just pull Volanta back up here. Say you've just pushed back from Terminal 5 over here, and the active runway is runway 27 left. Say it's really busy. Instead of just saying your whole taxi routing, like, oh, I'm going to be going runway 27 left, holding point November 2 Whiskey via Alpha, etc., all these taxiways, right? People don't need to know like all the taxiways. No one's going to remember that and no one's going to really care. Just say that you're taxiing to runway 27 left. For example, I would just say Heathrow traffic, shuttle 4 kilo, taxiing, holding point, runway 27 left, Heathrow. That is all I would say for that. You don't need to say anything extra than that, and that should be okay. In terms of departing, this is very important. If you are entering the runway, if you are lining up or departing, you need to announce this, especially if there's people on approach. You need to announce this. You're lining up and you are taking off / departing. If you're departing, you could mention your SID if it's busy. You could just say, oh, shuttle 4 kilo, departing on the Samba 1 Romeo departure. You can do that. Again, it's very hit and miss whether you should. I always say what SID I am taking when I depart. Doesn't matter how busy it is. I just quickly say, oh, shuttle 4 kilo, departing on the Samba 1 Romeo departure. And that way it just increases a little bit of situational awareness. And on the note of departing, always leave 1 or 2 minutes takeoff separation. From when the person in front of you takes off, you should always leave 1 or 2 minutes. That way you're not taking off on top of each other in the air. Just leave that little bit of separation just to give people that little bit of space. It might not mean much to you, but to another pilot it might mean the world. Another thing I see a lot on Unicom actually is people announcing what flight level they're climbing to. Someone's just took off and they're at 4,000 feet, and they say, oh, call sign, I'm climbing from 4,000 feet to flight level 310. No one cares. You don't need to say that. No one cares. You don't need to announce. As soon as you're airborne and you're on the SID and you've got your gear up and you're climbing out, that's it. You basically don't need to say anything. Because again, it just clutters up those comms, especially at a busy airport. So just leave it at that. All of your RT should be on the ground when you're departing, basically. Cruise and climb. Basically, you really do not need to say anything at cruise and climb. I see a lot of people saying on Unicom, oh, I'm cruising at flight level 310, or I'm climbing from flight level 210 to flight level 330. No one cares. Like, it's not important information. And another thing I see, it's so common, is people saying, oh, I'm leaving the cockpit for 20 minutes. You're on Unicom. like, you don't need to say that. It's not important. Just do not say that you're leaving the cockpit. Again, when I say no one's going to care, I don't mean that in a mean way. Everyone's in their own little world, doing their own little flying. No one's going to mind that you're leaving the cockpit. So it's just not needed. And again, the whole point is you need to be cutting down on the amount of information that you're putting out there when it's not necessary. And that way you can leave the communications clear and open for anyone that actually needs to get something across, like they're landing or taking off or something. You're leaving it open for them, basically. Okay, now time for arrival, arguably the most important stages of the three, and this is where 90% of your radio time will be when you're flying on Unicom. Arrival is really important, and again, this is really important when you're flying at a busy airport. Say there's 10 people trying to get down the ILS, 10 people trying to land. You have to communicate with other aircraft. It's just part of flying. You have to communicate. Don't be silent. Don't be afraid. No one's going to judge you. Just get yourself out there and announce what you're doing. And that way it will make it much easier for everyone. And also, as I said at the start, don't be afraid to ask questions. I was flying to Heathrow just last night, and there was 6 people trying to get down the ILS, and I said to someone, the guy in front of me, how fast are you going and do you need me to slow down? And he went, I'm going 220 knots and I'm not sure. So I just said, okay, I will stay 220 knots or below to give you space. And we managed to get down safely. And it's the same with him. He was always announcing what he was doing, so the other 5-6 aircraft around us always knew what he was doing, which is really good. So if you happen to be watching this, thank you. So always announce when you start the star. The first waypoint of the star, you should always say, let's take Manchester for example. The first waypoint of the Elvos 1 mic arrival for Manchester is Elvos. So when you approach Elvos, you should just put out a quick transmission out there saying, Manchester traffic, shuttle 4 kilo at Elvos, Elvos 1 mic arrival for Manchester. That's all you need to say. And that gives anyone that's also on the Elvos 1 mic arrival a chance just to register, okay, there is someone behind me who's going to be flying the exact same route, so I need to keep my speed up, sort of thing. Announce if you're on downwind or base. Some stars take you parallel to the runway, or some stars require a self-vectoring to get onto the ILS. If you're self-vectoring and you're on base or you're on downwind, try and announce that. And the same goes for VFR traffic. We've done a lot of talking about IFR traffic. If you're VFR traffic, you should always announce what you're doing as well. Downwind, upwind, base, for example. You should always announce when you're just about to establish on the ILS, maybe a couple of nautical miles away. Again, this is more prevalent if there's a lot of traffic trying to land around you, basically. So they know what you're doing and what your intentions are. Remember, the key of Unicom, if you don't take away anything else from this video, just take away that Unicom, you need to be clear and concise, and you need to be communicating your intentions and communicating with other pilots. So I would say something like, shuttle 4 kilo, 2 nautical miles away from establishing on the ILS runway 27 left Heathrow traffic, something like that. Also announce when you're established on ILS. This is arguably the most important one. Announce when you're established on an ILS. Not just for the other aircraft that are trying to land and get in, but also for anyone that's queuing at the holding point waiting to get in. Announce when on short final. I say if applicable. If there's no one queuing at the hold, there's no point in announcing short final because there's no one waiting to take off. If there's someone stood at the holding point waiting, announce that you're on short final so that they don't then line up, forcing you to go around. And on that note, always go around, because even if you do a missed approach or go around, there might be someone stood at the holding point who's waiting for you to land. And if you don't announce that you're going around, they might not see that, and they just might be stood there like this, waiting for you to land. So always announce again your intentions and what you're planning on doing. Things that people don't need to know in terms of arrival is people don't need to know your headings, like, I'm now heading 095, because they don't know where you are, so there's no point in doing that. They don't need to know if you're descending, I'm descending from flight level 310 to flight level 180. They don't need to know that. That's just going to, again, clutter up your communications and make it a bit more difficult for everyone else. So just remember, keep those communications clear. So as I said before, even, don't be afraid to ask others what their intentions are. That example I used about the speedbird in front of me, asking him how far out they are and their speed. Again, Unicom is a place for that sort of coordination. You probably had it before. You're coming into a busy airport that doesn't have ATC, and you're on Unicom, and it just clicks because everyone is talking to each other and everyone's coordinating well, and it's really nice when that happens. So always be vocal. You don't need to hide. No one's gonna sort of judge you. It's there so you can help other pilots, and other pilots can help you. That's what Unicom is there for. Always announce when runway is vacated. As I say, someone might be waiting to take off, someone might be landing, and you need to let them know when the runway is clear. When you have exited the runway, you then don't need to announce what stand you are at. I see a lot of people cluttering up those comms saying, "Oh, I've vacated 27 left, I'm taxiing to stand 514 via Alpha and Lima." No one needs to know that. If you are taxiing and you see another aircraft, then you can ask what their intentions are. But if you vacate the runway and get to stand, announce what stand you're going to and how you're going to get there, 10 seconds later, no one is going to remember that. So just taxi, and if you need to coordinate with someone who's also taxiing, then do it as you're taxiing. You don't need to announce that. Okay, not what to say. We've covered this a little bit. A couple of things to say we've seen on there. Like I say, we've already covered. You don't need to say that you're stepping away or leaving the cockpit, or you're cruising, or starting descent. We don't need to say this. One that I haven't talked about is requesting things. It's a very beginner mistake to request things on Unicom. Say, Unicom request descent, because they just don't get that there's no controller there. And it is quite common, actually. I've been there a couple of years ago where I didn't know what Unicom was, so no hate to anyone that does this. But if there is anyone new watching this, just know that you don't need to request things on Unicom because there is no controller there. Also, remember to make use of the .wallop command. Not enough people use this command. For anyone that doesn't know, if you type .wallop and then a message in chat, it automatically calls a supervisor, and supervisors are basically there to protect the network. If someone is misbehaving on VATSIM, you call a supervisor and the supervisor will deal with them. That could include banning them or removing them from the network temporarily. The supervisor is there to protect the network. So if you see loads of people chatting and having random conversations on Unicom, get a supervisor on them. If someone's just cut you up on approach because they haven't said a word on Unicom while you've been coordinating with this guy and he's just not said anything and he's just cut straight in front of you and caused you to go around, get a supervisor on him. So yeah, especially this has been hit home a lot in the VATSIM UK division as well, that not enough people make use of the wallop command to get a supervisor. Feel free to use it as you feel necessary. So now we're going to look at some actual examples of this from when I've been flying on the network, and what's good about them and what's not good about them. So we'll take this one in the top left here, this one here. Someone's doing very well. I've blurred out their call signs for obvious reasons. Someone's doing really well here. They say they're lining up runway 18 and they're taking off on the departure. This is correct. This is very, very good. This is very good. He's done exactly what he should do. It's clear and it's concise, and he's got what airport he's at there. But then you've got someone requesting something there, which obviously we've just discussed. You don't request anything on Unicom. Let's have a look at this one down here below it. This is a VATSPy screenshot. This is a picture of 4 people who are coming into Ibiza. They are quite close. This is quite a zoomed in screenshot. They are fairly close. So in this situation, I would be trying to contact each other and seeing what speed you are. If you're Lufthansa 349 here, you don't really need to worry about it. If you're Lufthansa 6 Papa Mike, I'd be saying to myself, okay, there's a guy in front of me, and there's a guy coming to my right. I don't know what speed this guy's at, this Iberia, so I'm going to ask him, what speed are you at? Say he says he's at 200 knots, then keep 200 knots or below to give him some space. And the same goes for each of those aircraft here. Don't be afraid to ask each other questions to get yourself in smoothly. We're going to look at the one at the top right now, and this is one that this is a screenshot from when I was flying on the network, and this is just petty chatter. And I didn't do it, but someone else did use the .wallet command and got basically everyone you see in this screenshot removed off the network temporarily. This first one, this is what not to do. This is a prime example of what you should not do. And if you do this on Unicom, you're most likely going to get a supervisor on you. This is general chit chat, as I covered. You don't chat on Unicom. This conversation could have happened in the DMs, not on Unicom. you can read that in your own time. You can pause the video and read this. I'm not going to read it out to you. There is one guy that does something good, and he steps in and just says his intentions here, and then people try and say, let's keep Unicom clean. Like this is not what you do on Unicom. This is not it. Unicom is for coordination, guys, not for chit chat. Here are some examples of what I was talking about earlier, about whether you need to request a taxi and pushback. Let's take this one on the left here. This is a screenshot of Manchester. If you are, for example, this guy, Echo Whiskey Echo 1234. If you're this guy, you don't need to request that you're you don't need to say that you're pushing back because there's no one around you. If you're Ryanair, this Ryanair here, potentially yes, you will need to say that you're pushing back because you might be pushing back behind this trans area here. Again, we've got a London Heathrow screenshot here. If you are this guy over here, the CCA, you don't need to request. Sorry, not request. I keep saying request because I've got it from the last slide. You don't need to announce that you're pushing back here. If you're Speedbird 984 Golf and you're Speedbird 666. You're coming straight towards each other. So these two should then move up a taxiway, or just say taking Speedbird 984 Golf, taking the next left onto whatever taxiway this is here. And this is one at Amsterdam, another push example. This Speedbird here doesn't need to say that he's taxiing anywhere. He doesn't need to do that. This KLM, he won't need to announce pushback, sorry, because there's no one near him. But if you're these KLMs or Speedbird down here, you might want to announce that you're pushing back because there's a row of you in a line. And if you're Speedbird 621 in the middle here, you might want to push facing this way behind the KLM. What was if the KLM's about to push? He doesn't know you're pushing if you've not announced it, so he can't physically do anything with that. So with that, I think that's going to be the end of this video. If you did indeed like this video and found it useful, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. And as I say, just to conclude here, Unicom is not a place for chatter. It is a place for communication and stating intentions. And by communication, I mean coordinating with other pilots to get up in the air or down on the ground efficiently. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll do my very best to answer. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.